To the Big 12, number 6 Kansas at number 25 Oklahoma, 4 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off Saturday on ESPN. Despite being the lower-ranked team, Haslametrics projects the Sooners as a 2-point home favorite in this one, over-under of 142.5. Eli, you do not have Oklahoma in your top 25. You have Kansas slightly lower than the AP. You have them at number 10. Intriguing matchup here for sure, because we've talked about it at length. This is not your traditional Kansas powerhouse. I think we would both agree on that. But they've struggled on the road in Big 12 play. They haven't been the dominant force in this conference this year.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with injuries. Kevin McCullough. I mean, this, to your point too, this isn't your typical truck fest of a Kansas team, albeit they've done that at Allen Fieldhouse in big games. Houston, not covering against Baylor last weekend, but still winning the game outright. Big game for Kansas, just considering their road struggles, which you hit on. But McCullough, knee injury, he's missed, I think, 3 of their last 5 games, and missing the Texas Tech game. I know some people were speculating on X that he didn't want to play at Texas Tech in Lubbock just because he used to play there and he got hell in his return at Texas Tech when he's done so. I think only once, but still. DeJuan Harris also dealing with an ankle injury, and that was evident in the Texas Tech game on Monday night. Big Monday, Kansas got wrecked, and the market was all over Texas Tech, and rightfully so. It was justified with Texas Tech winning, I think, by 20-plus points. But this is going to bring a smile to your face, Stephen, because I have an NFL comp for you, at least prior to the Texas Tech game. Kansas's market rating, because McCullough's injury should have been baked in a little bit more than I think the market was perceiving ahead of the Texas Tech game, because I thought the market did a good job of driving up the Red Raiders, especially before tip, and once the McCullough injury news popped up. Kansas kind of reminds me of the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not talking about the Marquette Golden Eagles, in the sense that the market adjusted to the Eagles down the stretch, but not entirely. I mean, you go back to the Arizona Cardinals game at home when they lost as, double-digit home favorites. I know it was Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, but still, they closed as 2.5, 3-point road favorites without A.J. Brown. So outside of the Texas Tech game, I've been kind of surprised at the market's rating, especially game-by-game spread for Kansas, with McCullough at least banged up, if not out of the lineup. So I'm really curious to see where this spread closes, just because you may see a little bit of an over-adjustment on Kansas. I know I just said that the market has been not adjusting enough, but I think based on the result on Monday night, you may see an overinflated line in Oklahoma's direction, especially with hearing what Haslametrics makes the point spread for this game around 2, maybe even 3. And Oklahoma's no-middle defense should give some open 3-point looks for Kansas. I know they shot 3 of 16 against Texas Tech, but Furphy's got to get more involved offensively than what we saw in that game. And depending on the health of McCullough, I mean, if McCullough plays, I think it's a really good bounce back spot for Kansas. Depending on the ankle status for Harris, maybe Kansas is able to get some more open threes against a interior-oriented Oklahoma defense and potentially pull off the upset, which is crazy to say for a Kansas team. But Kansas also, when you look at their rim defense, 96th, and when it comes to percentile of points allowed in the paint, which is where Oklahoma wants to score. So not a great stat for Oklahoma offensively either when they're in the half court. I kind of side with Kansas here, just depending on where the line closes.
Yeah, the thing that always makes me queasy about backing Kansas is just their lack of depth. So any given game, if they were to get into foul trouble, especially on the road, that's a real challenge for them. And Oklahoma is one of the better teams in college basketball at getting to the free throw line. They're top 70 overall in free throw attempt to field goal attempt ratio, number 2 in the Big 12 in that category. It's just a fancy way of saying they get to the line a lot. And again, 337th in bench minutes is what Kansas ranks this year in Division I. So they don't get a lot of minutes. They don't ask a lot from their bench guys at all. So if starters get in foul trouble, that's a big issue for them. Now, the OU offense here, Eli, is what gives me pause, because they're inconsistent. Their offensive rebounding percentage has fallen way off from what their numbers were in the non-conference. So they're not generating anywhere near the same number of second chance opportunities to make up for some of the poor shooting that they've had. So that's always tough for me. And with Kansas and their ability to be efficient inside the arc, like you documented their 3-point shooting issues, but inside the arc here for Kansas is where I think you could potentially get some work and make some hay in this matchup, because you mentioned the no middle, but at least on paper, you have the number 1 2-point field goal percentage offense in the Big 12 in Kansas against the number 9 2-point field goal percentage defense in Oklahoma. That's where I see the big mismatch. So I'm with you on the Kansas side here. If they can stay out of foul trouble, that's always the risk when you're betting on this Kansas team, right? And just overall, to go back to wide angle lens view here, Kansas is undefeated at home. Saw the best of them against teams like Houston. They're 2-5 on the road, and this is a road game. So I think you're right that you're going to see some Oklahoma action here. And if we get more than a possession, well, now we can have that discussion, right?
Right. What do you think about, and to that point, what do you think about the over-adjustment? Maybe we don't need to dig too much into the Philadelphia Eagles, but we saw it a lot down the stretch, right? And I'm really curious to see where this line closes, even if McCullough doesn't go. And Kansas last played on Monday, so you're getting a little bit more time than your traditional, let's say, Wednesday to Saturday game, even in a physical Big 12 where Kansas got worn down. And like you said, bench minutes are a big issue.
Aren't the market adjustments here on Kansas very much about home road splits? Like, I think we
and
saw
no McCullough.
Yeah, yes, but we saw interest in Kansas even against Houston in Allen Fieldhouse, right? The market was interested in backing Kansas in that game. We didn't see it on the road at Texas Tech, and if I had to guess, there's going to be more interest in Oklahoma here. And I think it's just a home road splits thing, don't you?
Yes, and look at the Baylor game, right? I was surprised where that line closed because McCullough didn't play. I know it was at Allen Fieldhouse, but that goes to the notion that you bring up that the market will back Kansas at home consistently based on the trend, even with their best player. It is their best player. Hunter Dickinson is not their best player this season. You look at how inefficient he's been, especially when teams double him, and Kansas can't hit open shots. So, yeah, man, the market will probably fade Kansas, and maybe we see a bet pop up for you in the Discord channel, depending on where this line closes.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be a fun one in the Big 12. That is for sure.